Love refers to a variety of different feelings, states, and attitudes that ranges from interpersonal affection, I love my mother, to pleasure, I loved that meal. It can refer to an emotion of a strong attraction and personal attachment. It can also be virtue representing human kindness, compassion, and affection, the unselfish, loyal, and benevolent concern for the good of another. It may also describe compassionate and affectionate actions towards other humans, one's self, or animals. Ancient Greeks identified four forms of love: kinship or familiarity in Greek storge, friendship, philia, sexual and/or romantic desire, eros, and self-emptying or divine love, agape, agape. Modern authors have distinguished further varieties of romantic love. Non-Western traditions have also distinguished uh, variants or symbiosis of these states. This diversity of uses and meanings, combined with the complexity of the feelings involved, makes love unusually difficult to consistently define compared to other emotional states. Love, in its various forms, acts as a major facilitator of interpersonal relationships, and owing to its central psychological importance, is one of the most common themes in the creative arts. Love may be understood as a function to keep human beings together against menaces and to facilitate the continuation of the species. Definitions: the word "love" can have a variety of related but distinct meanings in different contexts. Many other languages use multiple words to express some of the different concepts that English relies mainly on love to encapsulate. One example is the plurality of Greek words for love, cultural differences in conceptualizing love thus uh, doubly impede the establishment of a universal definition. Although the nature or essence of love is a subject of frequent debates, different aspects of the word can be clarified by determining what isn't love. Love is a general expression of positive sentiment. A stronger form of life is commonly contrasted with hate or neutral apathy. As a less sexual and more emotionally intimate form of romantic attachment, love is commonly contrasted with lust, and as an interpersonal relationship with romantic overtones, love is sometimes contrasted with friendship, although the word love is often applied to close friendships. Abstractly discussed, love usually refers to an experience one person feels for another. Love often involves caring for or identifying with a person or thing vulnerability and care theory of love, including oneself, narcissism. In addition to cross-cultural differences in understanding love, ideas about love have also changed greatly over time. Some historians date modern conceptions of romantic love to early Europe during or after the Middle Ages, although the prior existence of romantic attachments is attested by ancient love poetry. The complex and abstract nature of love often reduces discourse of love to a thought-terminating cliché. Several common proverbs regard love, from Virgil's "Love conquers all" to the Beatles' "All you need is love." Saint Thomas Aquinas, following Aristotle, defines love as to will the good of another. Bertrand Russell describes love as a condition of absolute value as opposed to relative value. Philosopher Gottfried Leibniz said that love is to be delighted by the happiness of another. Biologist Jeremy Griffith defines love as unconditional selflessness. Love is sometimes referred to as an international language that overrides cultural and linguistic divisions. Impersonal love. A person can be said to love an object, principle, or goal to which they are deeply committed and greatly value. For example, compassionate outreach and volunteer workers' love of their cause may sometimes be born not of interpersonal love but impersonal love. Altruism and strong spiritual or political convictions. People can also love material objects, animals, or activities if they invest themselves in bonding or otherwise identifying with those things. If sexual passion is also involved, then this feeling is called paraphilia. Interpersonal love. Interpersonal love refers to love between human beings. It is a more potent sentiment than a simple liking for another. Unrequited love refers to those feelings of love that are not reciprocated, and interpersonal love is most closely associated with interpersonal relationships. Such love might exist between family members, friends, and couples. There are also a number of psychological disorders related to love, such as erotomania. Throughout history, philosophy and religion have done the most speculation on the phenomenon of love. In the last century, the science of psychology has written a great deal on the subject. In recent years, the sciences of psychology, anthropology, neuroscience, and biology have added to the understanding of the nature and function of love. Biological basis. Biological models of sex tend to view love as a mammalian drive, much like hunger or thirst. Helen Fisher, a leading expert in the topic of love, divides the experience of love into three partly overlapping stages: lust, attraction, and attachment. Lust is the feeling of sexual desire. Romantic attraction determines what partners mates find attractive and pursue, conserving time and energy by choosing, and attachment involves sharing a home, parental duties, mutual defense, and in humans involves feelings of safety and security. The three distinct neural circuitries, including neurotransmitters and three behavioral patterns, are associated with these three romantic styles. Lust is the initial passionate sexual desire that promotes mating and involves the increased release of chemicals such as testosterone and estrogen. These effects rarely last more than a few weeks or months. Attraction is the more individualized and romantic desire for a specific candidate for mating, which develops out of lust as commitment to an individual mate forms. Recent studies in neuroscience have indicated that as people fall in love, the brain consistently releases a certain set of chemicals, including pheromones, dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin, which act in a manner similar to amphetamines, stimulating the brain's pleasure center and leading to side effects such as increased heart rate, loss of appetite and sleep, and an intense feeling of excitement. Research has indicated that this stage generally lasts from 1.5 to 3 years. Since the lust and attraction stages are both considered temporary, a third stage is needed to account for long-term relationships. Attachment is the bonding that promotes relationships lasting for many years and even decades. Attachment is generally based on commitments such as marriage and children, or on mutual friendship based on things like shared interests. It has been linked to higher levels of the chemicals oxytocin and vasopressin to a greater degree than short-term relationships have. Enzo Emanuele and co-workers reported that protein molecule known as the nerve growth factor NGF has high levels when people first fall in love, but these return to previous levels after 1 year. Psychological basis. Psychology depicts love as a cognitive and social phenomenon. Psychologist Robert Sternberg formulated a triangular theory of love and argued that love has three different components: intimacy, commitment, and passion. Intimacy is a form in which two people share confidences and various details of their personal lives, and is usually shown in friendships and romantic love affairs. Commitment, on the other hand, is the expectation that the relationship is permanent. The last and most common form of love is sexual attraction and passion. Passionate love is shown in infatuation as well as romantic love. All forms of love are viewed as varying combinations combinations of these three components. Non-love does not include any of these components. Liking only includes intimacy. Infatuated love only includes passion. Empty love only includes commitment. Romantic love includes both intimacy and passion. Compassionate or companionate love includes intimacy and commitment. Fatuous love includes passion and commitment. Lastly, consummate love includes all three. American psychologist Zeke Rubin sought to define love by psychometrics. In the 1970s, his work states that three factors constitute love: attachment, caring, and intimacy. Following developments in electrical theories such as Coulomb's law, which showed that positive and negative charges attract and analogues in human life were developed, such as opposites attract. Over the last century, research on the nature of human mating has generally found this not to be true when it comes to character and personality. People tend to like people similar to themselves. However, in a few unusual and specific domains, such as immune systems, it seems that humans prefer others who are unlike themselves. Uh, Example, with an orthogonal immune system, since this will lead to a baby that has the best of both worlds. In recent years, various human bonding theories have been developed described in terms of attachments, um, ties, bonds, and affinities. Some Western authorities disaggregate into two main components, the altruistic and the narcissistic. This view is represented in the works of Scott Peck, whose work in the field of applied psychology explored the definitions of love and evil. Peck maintains that love is a combination of the concern for the spiritual growth of another and simple narcissism. In combination, love is an activity, not simply a feeling. Psychologist Eric Fromm maintained in his book, The Art of Loving, that love is not merely a feeling but is also actions, and that in fact the feeling of love is superficial in comparison to one's commitment to love via a series of loving actions over time. In this sense, Fromm held that love is ultimately not a feeling at all, but rather is a commitment to and adherence to loving actions towards another, oneself, or many others over a sustained duration. Fromm also described love as a conscious choice that in its early stages might originate as an involuntary feeling, but which then later no longer depends on those feelings, but rather depends only on conscious commitment. Evolutionary psychology has attempted to provide various reasons for love as a survival tool. Humans are dependent on parental help for a large portion of their lifespans compared to other mammals. Love has therefore been seen as a mechanism to promote parental support of children for this extended time period. Another factor may be that sexually transmitted diseases can cause, among other effects, permanently reduced fertility, injury, to the fetus and increase complications during childbirth. This would favor monogamous, monogamous relationships over polygamy. Comparison of scientific models. Biological models of love tend to see it as a mammalian drive similar to hunger or thirst. Psychology sees love as more of a social and cultural phenomenon. Certainly, love is influenced by hormones such as oxytocin, neurotrophins such as NGF, and pheromones, and how people think and behave in love is influenced by their conceptions of love. The conventional view in biology is that there are two major drives in love: sexual attraction and attachment. Attachment between adults is presumed to work on the same principles that lead an infant to become attached to its mother. The traditional psychological view sees love as being a combination of companionate love and passionate love. Passionate love is intense longing and is often accompanied by psychological arousal, shortness of breath, rapid heart rate. Companionate love is affection and a feeling of intimacy not accompanied by physiological arousal. Cultural views. Ancient Greek. Greek distinguishes several different senses in which the word love is used. For example, ancient Greek has the words philia, eros, agape, storge, and xenia or xinia. Or, however, with Greek, as with many other languages, it has been historically difficult to separate the meanings of these words totally. At the same time, the ancient Greek text of the Bible has examples of the verb agapo having the same meaning as phileo. Agape, agape means love in modern day Greek. The term agapo means I love you in Greek. The word agapo is the verb I love. It generally refers to a pure, ideal type of love, rather than the physical attraction suggested by eros. However, there are some examples of agape used used to sorry, there are some examples of agape used to mean the same as eros. It has also been translated as love of the soul. Eros, from the Greek deity Eros, is passionate love with sensual desire and longing. The Greek word erota means in love. Uh, Plato refined his own definition. Although eros is initially felt for a person, with contemplation it becomes an appreciation of the beauty within that person, or even becomes appreciation of beauty itself. Eros helps the soul recall knowledge of beauty and contributes to an understanding of spiritual truth. Lovers and philosophers are all inspired to seek truth by Eros. Some translations list it as love of the body. Philia, dispassionate, virtuous love, was a concept addressed and developed by Aristotle. It includes loyalty, to friends, family, and community, and requires virtue, equality, and familiarity. Philia is motivated by practical reasons. One or both of the parties benefit from the relationship. It can also mean love of the mind. Storge. Storge is natural affection like that felt by parents for offspring. Shania, the hospitality was an extremely important practice in ancient Greece. It was an almost ritualized friendship formed between a host and his guest, who could previously have been strangers. The host fed and provided quarters for the guest, who was expected to repay only with gratitude. The importance of this can be seen throughout Greek mythology, in particular Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. Ancient Roman Latin. The Latin language has several different verbs corresponding to the English word love. Amo is the basic verb meaning I love, with the infinitive amare, to love, and it still is in Italian today. The Romans used it both in an affectionate sense as well as in a romantic or sexual sense. From this verb come amans, a lover, a mater, professional lover, often with the accessory notion of lechery, and amica, girlfriend. In the English sense, often being applied euphemistically to a prostitute. The corresponding noun is amor. The significance of this term for the Romans is well illustrated in the fact that the name of the city, Rome, in Latin Roma, can be viewed as an anagram for amor, which was used as the secret name of the city in wide circles in ancient times, which is also used in the plural form to indicate love affairs or sexual adventures. This same root also produces amicus, friend, and amicitia, friendship, often based to mutual advantage and corresponding sometimes more closely to indebtedness or influence. Cicero wrote a treatise called On Friendship, De Amicitia, which discusses the notion at some length. Ovid wrote a guide to dating called Ars Amatoria, the art of love, which addresses in depth everything from extramarital affairs to overprotective parents. Latin sometimes uses amare where English would simply say to like. This notion, however, is much more generally expressed in Latin by placere or delectare, which are used more colloquially. The latter used frequently in the love poetry of Catullus. Deligere often has the notion to be affectionate for, to esteem, and rarely, if ever, is used for romantic love. This word would be appropriate to describe the friendship of two men. The corresponding noun diligentia, however, has the meaning of diligence or carefulness, and has little semantic overlap with the verb. Observare is a synonym for diligere. Despite the cognate with English, this verb and its corresponding noun, observantia, often denote esteem or affection. Caritas is used in Latin translations of the Christian Bible to mean charitable love. This meaning, however, is not found in classical pagan Roman literature, as it, as it arises from a conflation with a Greek word. There is no corresponding verb. Religious views. Abrahamic religions, Christianity. The Christian understanding is that love comes from God. Love of man and woman, eros in Greek, and the unselfish love of others, agape, are often contrasted as ascending and descending love, respectively, but are ultimately the same thing. There are several Greek words for love that are regularly referred to in Christian circles. Agape in the New Testament. Agape is charitable, selfless, altruistic, and unconditional. It is parental love, seen as creating goodness in the world. It is the way God is seen to love humanity, and it is seen as the kind of love that Christians aspire to have for one another. Phileo, also used in the New Testament, phileo is a human response to something that is found to be delightful, also known as brotherly love. Two other words for love in the Greek language, eros, sexual love, and storge, child-to-parent love, were never used in the New Testament. Christians believe that to love God with all your heart, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, are the two most important things in life, the greatest commandment of the Jewish Torah according to Jesus. Gospel of Mark, chapter 12, verses 28 to 34. Saint Augustine summarized this when he wrote, "Love God and do as thou wilt." The Apostle Paul glorified love as the most important virtue of all, describing love in the famous poem in First Corinthians, he wrote, "Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres." First Corinthians 13:4-7, New NIV. The Apostle John wrote, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him." John 3:16-17. John also wrote, "Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love." 1 John 4:7-8 NIV. Saint Augustine says that one must be able to decipher the difference between love and lust. Lust, according to Saint Augustine, is an overindulgence, but to love and be loved is what he has sought for his entire life. He even says, "I was in love with love." Finally, he does fall in love and is loved back by God. Saint Augustine says the only way who can love you truly and fully is God, because love with a human only allows to flaws such as jealousy, suspicion, fear, anger, and contention. According to St. Augustine, to love God is to attain the peace which is yours. St. Augustine's Confessions. Christian theologians see God as the source of love, which is mirrored in humans and their own loving relationships. Influential Christian theologian C.S. Lewis wrote a book called The Four Loves. Benedict XVI wrote his first encyclical on God is love. He said that a human being created in the image of God, who is love, is able to practice love, to give himself to God and others, agape, and by receiving and experiencing God's love in contemplation, eros. This life of love, according to him, is the life of the saints, such as Teresa of Calcutta and the Blessed Virgin Mary, and is the direction Christians take when they believe that God loves them. In Christianity, the practical definition of love is best summarized by St. Thomas Aquinas, who defined love as to will the good of another or to desire for another to succeed. This is the explanation of the Christian need to love others, including their enemies. As Thomas Aquinas explains, Christian love is motivated by the need to see others succeed in life, to be good people. Okay, we are going to stop here until next hangout. Thank you very much for your uh, patience. Until another hangout. Ancient Greeks identified four forms of love: kinship or familiarity, in Greek storge; friendship, philia; sexual and or romantic desire, eros; and self-emptying or divine love, agape. Agape. Modern authors have distinguished further varieties of romantic love. Non-Western traditions have also distinguished uh, variants or symbiosis of these states. This diversity of uses and meanings, combined with the complexity of the feelings involved, makes love unusually difficult to consist differences in conceptualizing love, thus uh, doubly impede the establishment of a universal definition. Although the nature or essence of love is a subject of frequent debates, different aspects of the word can be clarified by determining what isn't love. Love is a general expression of positive sentiment. A stronger form of life is commonly contrasted with hate or neutral apathy. As a less sexual and more emotionally intimate form of romantic attachment, love is commonly contrasted with lust. And as an interpersonal relationship with romantic overtones, love is sometimes contrasted with friendship, although the word love is often applied to close friendships. Abstractly discussed, love is instantly defined, compared to other emotional states. Love, in its various forms, acts as a major facilitator of interpersonal relationships, and owing to its central Psychological importance is one of the most common themes in the creative arts. Love may be understood as a function to keep human beings together against menaces and to facilitate the continuation of the species. Definitions: the word "love" can have a variety of related but distinct meanings in different contexts. Many other languages use multiple words to express some of the different concepts that English relies mainly on love to encapsulate. One example is the plurality of Greek words for love. Cultural difference usually refers to an experience one person feels for another. Love often involves caring for or identifying with a person or thing. Vulnerability and care theory of love, including oneself. Narcissism. In addition to cross-cultural differences in understanding love, ideas about love have also changed greatly over time. Some historians date modern conceptions of romantic love to early Europe during or after the Middle Ages, although the prior existence of romantic attachments is attested by ancient love poetry. The complex and abstract nature of love often reduces discourse of love to a thought-terminating cliché. Several common proverbs regard love, from Virgil's "Love conquers all" to the Beatles' "All you need is love." Love refers to a variety of different feelings, states, and attitudes that ranges from interpersonal affection "I love my mother" to pleasure "I loved that meal." It can refer to an emotion of a strong attraction and personal attachment. It can also be virtue representing human kindness, compassion, and affection, the unselfish, loyal, and benevolent concern for the good of another. It may also describe compassionate and affectionate actions towards other humans, one's self, or animals.